So I'm just going to jump straight on in then. So just a brief plotted history about iCoTech. So my name is Joel Markham, CEO and founder of iCoTech Services. This is a bit about me, really, my background, where I started. So PMO practitioner in Welsh Water and a project manager in Lloyds Banking Group. And then I spent 5 years in Babcock International, where I ended up being the head of projects and governance, delivering a portfolio of projects and change initiatives across business and technology, really, across the globe for that organization. And that's really kind of, I guess, I've used SharePoint from day dot. When I built my first PMO in Welsh Water in South Wales, we used SharePoint in order to do that. It's a fantastic tool. It's really powerful, and today hopefully we'll show you some of the benefits and some of the things you can use the tool for. After that, then I'm just going to get my mouse. So that's when iCoTech really started, and first customer was Companies House, and now today we just provide cloud Microsoft 365 technology services to the likes of Bays, IPO, ONS, and ACAS as well. Just to set the scene, really. Just to shout out to the people of iCoTech. It's not just me. We've got some great skilled people across the team here. So thanks for Lauren to setting this up today. And of course, we've got development team, change team as well, and our partnership team as well. So just to paint the picture that it's not just me at iCoTech. We've got a fantastic team of capability here to support our customers and provide this content to you as well, which is something we're proud to do. So our approach, I guess, just something we always focus on is delivering value at pace. Really part of this is about people and collaboration, which is why I'm so keen to show you guys these services and these tools and share our knowledge on these things. But we're always innovating and always looking for ways to improve the things that we do and the way that systems and tools are used across technology and businesses across the world, which is really passionate and close to our hearts. So just to set the scene, really, just to kind of summarize who we are and what we do. We're a Microsoft 365 Gold implementation partner now, so I'm proud to say we're Gold. The last one I did this, we were Silver, so we've just got to Gold status, which is great. So we're really proud of that. But what we do is everything 365, so SharePoint, all those services, and it's broken down into 4 offerings basically: solutions, products, services, and consulting. So just a bit of just to set the scene and provide the background. So as I said, we're a Gold partner now, but we specialize in Power BI, data visualization, Power Platform, Power Apps, etc., and project portfolio management. And of course, in order to deliver these types of services and solutions, we do a lot of work with SharePoint. So we do SharePoint migrations, SharePoint custom builds, and we've got SharePoint support contracts as well. And SharePoint training. So the whole range of services that run across SharePoint, and of course the rest of the Microsoft 365 technology stack. Okay. So what is SharePoint? And I think it's had like a plotted history, really, and it probably has some misperceptions, I guess, of what tool what it could do as a tool, or what it can do as a tool. And for me, it did start off, as Microsoft will say, as a web-based collaborative platform that integrates with 365. I think that wording is probably a bit wrong now. It is within Microsoft 365 wholly. It's an application available that you can consume from the waffle on the top left hand side of office.com. It was sold primarily as a document management solution, and it is still used today as a document management solution. But really, it's highly configurable, and it's much more than a document management solution. So for me, it's bringing together information across an organization. So whether it's social feeds, communities, teams, bringing people together to collaborate on a cloud platform is really what SharePoint is for me and for the customers that use it. In this diagram here, you can see about the kind of the search and query rules that we can put into place. So you can search for documents across an organization or information across an organization, and you can create sites. You can use Power View or Power Pivot to create dashboards. In just because I mentioned it earlier, in my first PMO in Welsh Water, we used kind of JavaScript to change the icon colors in a list, so that if you wanted a rag to be red and have a red icon, you could use some JSON code, to change that, kind of configure the system to meet your specific requirements. And then obviously it integrates with Mail now, and it integrates with Outlook and OneDrive as well. So I really see SharePoint and in the heart of 365. If you think about Teams, Teams is a front end with SharePoint sitting in the background. Every team that you create within Teams I know they need to change that, don't they? Every team that you create within Teams has a SharePoint site in the background. So when you go and create that team, it's creating a SharePoint background site in order to allow you to collaborate. Effectively in that team channel. When you add the document to that team channel, it's storing it in SharePoint and sending a link to somebody on the other end who's accessing that document via SharePoint. So it's really, really powerful. Just a quick one on the future of where it's going to go. I think for me, it's probably going to fall more into the background, if I'm honest. And other services like Teams will form the new lens or the new front end of 365. But all the functionality that's available in SharePoint now will move across into Teams and other services in the future. The next slide here is just my summary, really, just to bring it to life a bit more. I think it's about working as part of a team, working from home, working in a collaborative environment. It's about communicating and sharing, and keeping your stakeholders informed. That's really what SharePoint is for me personally. Okay. And again, I'll encourage any questions, any thoughts. Even if you want to challenge me, happy to have some productive and positive challenge. But yeah, if you want to raise your hand you can ask a question or put it in the chat window. More than happy to answer any questions that come through. So the benefits. So for me, SharePoint is all about security. So having it available within 365 is really important. And the single sign-on authentications that's available within the service is great. But furthermore, when you're trying to collaborate with external parties, so when you're trying to, my business, we collaborate with lots of other businesses in our ecosystem, and we want to share documents with those individuals securely. Applying the permissions over the top of SharePoint is really, really important and is a great benefit for me. And not having to use a different service like Dropbox or any other things that we try not to use, because keeping it all within Microsoft 365 is just much safer for us and for our customers as well. So yeah, I think the other benefit is collaboration. So whether it's a team, a project, a department, multiple organizations, keeping in touch and working together on the single source of truth is always important and always useful for businesses, really, especially in this day and age when we're all at home, and working remotely in our hybrid environments. And then the latter phase of SharePoint in its development is where the Power Platform is really being enabled within SharePoint. So if you're in a SharePoint document library now, you'll notice that there's buttons like Power Apps and Power Automate at the top of the ribbon there. They're relatively new. They weren't there 2 years ago, but that's when you can use the services of the Power Platform to build automation. So whether it's workflow, notification, rules, apps, etc. And if you want some further information on any of those type of things, then we've got lots of other content online on YouTube of those types of services and apps. But you can create a Power App now using a SharePoint list as a back end for simplistic apps and processes. There's obviously lots more benefits to SharePoint, but those are the ones that are really close to our heart. And I guess one of the things I want to articulate as well is that if your SharePoint system is locked down, if you're unable to create a list, if you're unable to create a document library, you're not really using SharePoint to how it's designed to be used. I know there are some organizations, across our space that end users are not able to go and create a list. End users are not able to go and create columns or fields or create views. That's wrong. It's not the way SharePoint was designed to operate. Of course, there's got to be control and there's got to be rigor around these things, and maybe there's a group of super users that are allowed to do that kind of thing. But if you're going to prevent your users from creating that type of content in a SharePoint site, then you're preventing that collaboration. And people who know me will know that I detest Excel at times, but you're kind of forcing your team to stay in Excel rather than use the power of the collaboration tool available in SharePoint. Rant over. So what can it be used for? Because it's not just a document library. It really is much more than that. I'd say 20% of it is a document library capability, but for me it's just got so much more value in all the other spectrums. So intranet sites, pages, lists. I mean, if you're like me, love a list. forever digitally writing lists, but so if you've got lots of Excel, tabular, table content, you want to move to a more collaborative service, then lists are brilliant. Web parts, so bringing in custom apps, so we can build pie charts, the little kind of KPI dials, all that kind of stuff, which is great. Visuals, so news, it's fantastic for sharing news articles and communicating with your teams as well. And in the demo, I'll show you some of that stuff that's kind of out of the box. And yeah, of course, files and searching for people as well. So I'll show you that a bit later on as well. Workflows, as I mentioned, it is really about taking a request for a service, like a process, like an idea maybe, or a request to purchase something, or even I've seen holiday apps being built in SharePoint. It's about submitting an action or an artifact and letting it go through a process, and which is brilliant. File synchronization. So SharePoint is effectively the service that hosts OneDrive as well. So your OneDrive service is being supported by SharePoint, and therefore your personal documents are all synchronized in a SharePoint environment effectively, with OneDrive over the front of it. And yeah, mobile technology. So if you didn't know, SharePoint's available on a mobile phone, and it's brilliant. I love SharePoint on my mobile. So in terms of how it can be used on the mobile platform, news articles. So across iCoTech, when we're publishing our blogs, that they're in our news page as well, that we can consume them. Not so valuable if you've got 10 people, but if you've got 1,000 people, of course, news is far more important to your business. So having a news feed and a news stream where your internal comms team, a change team, are distributing stories across the business, it's a brilliant tool for that. You can go one step further with a service called Yammer. If you've heard of Yammer, that's more of a Facebook equivalent. But sometimes I'd say simple is best, and if you want to communicate with your employees, then the news service is brilliant. And yeah, please allow your users to download the mobile app as well, and consume it, and not on a corporate device. Contentious, I know, but yeah, if you're prohibiting your users downloading the SharePoint onto a personal device, again, you're kind of preventing them from getting access to it when we all want to get access to the news, is when we're on our digital device or at home, not necessarily in the focus mode of work. Me is a service in the mobile app as well, so you can update your profile, you can search for your documents. Just another thing that I use SharePoint for on my phone quite a lot is taking documents, just taking notes, and I'll do that in some form of OneNote, or which is stored in SharePoint, so that I can share my OneNote file with somebody else in the team as well. You have to remind people sometimes, I sometimes have to comically say I'm not texting, I'm actually taking notes, because it looks like I'm texting when I'm on my phone like this, but some people might think that I'm thinking about or doing something else, but that's just a ways of working thing. But yeah, super powerful. And then find, so all of our documents are in SharePoint, and many of our customers' documents are all in SharePoint as well. Even if you just wanted to quickly reference something, using the search function or the find function on the phone is brilliant, because I can just search for that Word document or that script or the OneNote file on SharePoint on my phone, and just quickly reference or recall something in a meeting if I didn't have my laptop in front of me. So I'd really recommend looking at the mobile app in more detail if you're in a large corporate organization. I think it's a really powerful solution to use. Cool. So if there's any questions, again, just put them in the chat window. I'm more than happy to answer them if you want me to answer any questions that you have. But I'll just move on to the next slide now. Cool. So I just want to take you through a SharePoint example, because I'm sorry if you've seen this as well. I'm kind of highly aware that a lot of people may use SharePoint, but I'd be interested to know the varying degrees of complexities and what services they're using in SharePoint, because I know that that's kind of different in a case-by-case basis. But this is a demo environment. Obviously, it's got some content in there that's easy for me to show you. But effectively, these are sites at the bottom here, which are set up in the system. And every project or every department would have a site in a business and an organization. Every team might have a site if you wanted to. And I guess that's one of the points around thinking about your configuration and deployment of SharePoint. The SharePoint migrations are not simple, they're not easy to do, because you do have to think about the site hierarchy. What collections have you got? Are they extranets? Are they intranets? Are they available externally, or are they only available internally? Is every function in the business got its own site, or does it go down to team level? Or do you go totally crazy and let anybody create any site? You've got to think about that governance and control, really. But this example is using a landing page here for the business also to really share its news articles with the business. So this is in the modern platform as well. So if you're using SharePoint, you might also be on the classic, which looks a bit older than this, but that's just a quick version upgrade. But yeah, this is about sharing content with the workforce when they land on this page. And the communication team would probably normally be driving these stories and this content. And then this is an example here of an external API, just a weather forecast in your local area using MSN Weather. But you can imagine the types of content you can bring in here. It's pretty endless, really. And then, you've got hot topics of benefits, travel expenses, health and safety, time tracking. It's just to bring to life, really, what a SharePoint page should look like, and what type of content you can display here. You've got discussion boards as well, which are quite cool now. This is a new release, and this is kind of the news feed, the Twitter almost of the business. Posting questions where you can like and interact with these Twitter feeds, which is pretty cool. These are the navigation bars. These are actually they're not actually working in this demo environment, because it is just a demo environment to be able to show you the art of the possible, really. But you can construct these to your departmental structure as well. So one customer has like an HR, finance, IT, and every function department in the business has a site, and it has a site owner who's able then to display their own version of the content. So if I was in IT, I'd go to my IT page, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is a landing page of where we could go, really. I wanted to show you some of the other things that we can do in terms of site content, site settings, and just another neat feature, and not something that not many people know exists, but you can actually add content from third parties. So Microsoft have the SharePoint store. So you can actually go and buy products or third-party plugins from the SharePoint store. And these could be in anything like, plugins for Nintex forms, Adobe sign signatures. So actually in Babcock, we had a customer that wanted to digitally sign a form on a tablet, because the mobile work was out in the field, and that was quite difficult. And we bought a plugin from the SharePoint store so that the Word document could be signed digitally using SharePoint and then saved back into the repository. So those kind of specific apps that are available that you would want to go and consume from the SharePoint store are readily available. Of course, I wouldn't recommend you doing this in a corporate environment, but other than going and putting in the appropriate request, obviously, to get it impact assessed, impact. Of the site content, where we're able to go and look at the custom lists, the mailboxes, we can add document libraries, calendars, and I can add a custom list if you want me to, but I'm not sure of the kind of the level of usage. But if anybody wants me to do anything here in terms of adding a document library or building a custom list, I'm more than happy to do that. Just put it in the chat window and I can have a go. So in terms of the subsites as well, or the assets in the site, so you can see a lot of it is document libraries, but there's also calendars and events here as well, an events calendar. And then there's pages, so we can construct sub pages to this site, or even create a sub-site to the overall site itself. Just to recap on that, effectively you could have a collection at the top level, which is a site collection, and you could have subsites underneath that, and then you could have pages underneath the subsites. Yeah, so it's like kind of a one-to-many tree, and it just gives you the potential to build and construct this as however you feel fit. All right. Are there any predefined intranet publishing pages with carousels? Ooh, like a dynamic page. That's a great question. Thank you for that. I will keep going and I'll find it. Are there predefined internet pages with a carousel? I know there's a carousel web part, but I don't know if it's a predefined. But I assume you mean like where like a box it moves across like a carousel, just to kind of show the news feeds. I know it's possible, but I just don't think it's predefined. But I'll keep digging for you. Thank you for the question. Much appreciated. So that's basically like the landing page of the business, and how does SharePoint is designed to use as well. It's not designed to set out navigation. It's not really got much signposting. It's designed that you save these links into your favorites. So if you want the landing page here, you might have a couple of buttons up here for an intranet page or whatever, but the use case is normally chuck it into your favorites as IT landing page or home page or whatever it might be, or surface these links at this stage as well, at this level as well. So the next one then is we're going to take an example of a function within the business. So this is sales and marketing now. So in my head, we've almost gone down a level from the landing page of the company. This is what we're doing, these are the stories, to actually this is sales and marketing, and this is where you'd go if you were in this team. You can see here it's a public group, but of course, and you've got 20 members. You can set this as a private group, so you can control these permissions and do it in a much more rigorous way. As a logged in as an admin, I can see who's in the page, and I can even change who they are or remove them from the group. But of course, you have to be an admin in order to do that. So these are the components of the web parts. So you've got, you can add a news post, you can add a news link. So if I wanted to add a link to a third-party product, or a plan, and that's an interesting one. Being a project guy, that is a new one. Plan. Ooh, I might have to play with that later. I might have found a new feature in there. They do this to us a lot. So yeah, I'm hoping that's a project for the web plan that links in there, because that would be quite cool. But yeah, this is the page that the team or the content owner of the sales and marketing team will own, basically, and this is where you can start constructing your the design of your page. If you went into the page like site settings, etc., which I can do now. So site content, and then so we can site design does change on me quite a lot. So sorry, I think the site content. Yeah, God, just changed me a lot. So so this site then has a number of different products that you could use, basically. So a list, and I'll show you these in a minute, and pages and that kind of thing. So I'm going to show you documents, because that's where everybody normally goes, is documents. And you can see these buttons I was referring to earlier, like creating a Power App from the data within this library. And then you've got a Power Automate as well, so you can go and create flows. And there's a lot of predefined flows as well. So send a customized email when a new file is added. So this is the kind of level of automation and that I was talking about earlier on. I won't go into too much detail on this, because I'll probably break it, and not do it correctly. But you can see, if you know how to go and create a Power Automate flow, you can use this to go and create an automation when somebody uploads a file. Other things I like is export to Excel functions as well. So these buttons are growing, kind of being added over time. And also the sync button, or the is another one I like. If you add a shortcut to your OneDrive, there used to be a problem with SharePoint where you couldn't download the file directly from SharePoint or upload it back into SharePoint, and it was a real blocker. Like, I don't know if I'm articulating myself correctly there, but in your internet, in your files here, you can make this library visible within your files now. So when you do a save as, you can, it's quite easy to save directly to that location from Word into the SharePoint document library. I hope I've explained that correctly. But if you've got that button available on your SharePoint environment, press it, and you'll see what I mean. And it is brilliant. It was one of those change your world moments. If you're sad like me and like technology. So yeah, you can do documents from this point as well. So another feature I like is just creating Word documents from this point. And yeah, that kind of works quite well for me, really. So product list then. So this is a list. So a SharePoint list that hopefully you guys have seen this, but this is really the heart of it. So this is where it takes not just document management, but content management, information management, where we can create a series of columns quite easily now. You can put choices, hyperlinks, whatever you need in this system. So this is a link or URL here. Okay, so you can do that. You can create that link there and edit these and put links into, there's that link there to a third-party product, like a third-party URL here. Okay, so yeah, and the comments features is a new one as well. I don't know if you've got this enabled in your environments, but the comments feature on this list item itself, that is quite a new feature that's come out recently, and that's quite cool. And they're really pushing comments across 365 now. So you'll notice in Excel documents and Word documents, the comments feature is enhancing month on month, which is pretty cool. You can edit the forms, edit the layouts, and you can even do that with a Power App as well. And that is recent in terms of being able to use a Canvas app to overlay the top of this form to totally change the way this looks. But I'd be there for a long time if I showed you how to do that, so I'll leave that one for today. But effectively, you can change the way this appears as a with JSON code and with a bit of configuration in here. It's just to show you that effectively the capability of lists is no longer just a really ugly, boring form. And if you're used to using SharePoint Classic, then you remember those days of the form would pop up and it would be quite simple and really just put people off. But now it's a lot easier to go and make these forms look a lot nicer. The next thing I wanted to do is just show you the list settings. Here we go. So for anybody that hasn't configured a list before, maybe there's a few on the call. It is as simple as, I'll do that again because I don't think it was clear, but if you're in the list itself, you can go into the cog on the top right and go to list settings. And we can do all sorts of things here, adding new columns, from existing site columns, content types, all that kind of stuff in here as well, and create a series of views. So I'm going to go and just create a column here, just for example. And you've got a number of different options when creating a column. You can do it as a looker, people pickers, multiple choices, numbers, or the kind of calculated field if you want to do a formula. So that's that's how you go and create a column in here. I'm just going to create one single line of text. Typical now, this doesn't work and shouts at me for doing something wrong, but in for a penny, in for a pound. So that is there now as test, and I can go into a view called all items and just make sure that column is there in the view. This is another good one, but complex at times, is ordering your columns. So in your Excel kind of mind, if you've got columns, you want to move test as an example to the front of the queue, to the far left. You could do that here. Just go in to move that column from position 8 to position 1, and in the all items view now, that should move to the left, which it has. Hey, I do know what I'm talking about. It's always that nerve-wracking moment when you think, oh God, is it going to work? So yeah, and that's really, these are the views here that we've got, 2 views, and you can create your own views, and you can even do permissions based on views as well. So yeah, a whole number of things that you can do at this level. Whilst I'm talking my way through that, I'm also frantically thinking about how to find a carousel. And it's bugging me because I know it exists, and I just want to. I'm gonna have to come back to you on that one, and just send you a link to a carousel. And I'm pretty sure there's a web part for a moving carousel as well. So if there is, I'll just send you an email later, or just put it in the chat window as well, so you could go and consume that in your own environment. But yeah, so effectively we've gone through the landing page. We've gone through the kind of examples of what the intranet pages look like. So this is what I would call an intranet page, an internal kind of website to share your content. We've gone through kind of some of the some of the settings and the lists in here as well. So we've got just gone through the list settings, and then so I don't know if there's any other questions that anybody has at all. Thanks, Nikki. Anything that anybody wanted to ask that I can go and have a look? I can go and have a look for, or answer any questions that you guys have. Great question. I'm pretty sure you can. So library settings is where you would go in here, and you've got advanced settings where you can, I'm pretty sure you've got, and permissions for the document library as well. So if you've got I'd have to double check whether how you prevent them having access to the other content within the sites. But I have an example where the document library is the requirement, and there's a list, for example, which the stakeholder doesn't want that user to see. So well, they probably do technically still have access to the site itself, but you can prevent, you can limit what content on that site is seen by that user. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so it's about creating the groups, and I just don't know if they actually removed the URL and went to the site, they'd probably land on the site. It's just that you'd have to select which other parts of that site you didn't want that user group to see, such as maybe a sensitive list or something like that. Yeah. Thank you though, David, for the question. Much appreciated. Is there any other questions on this at all? You can do it in Power Apps, and that's where I believe the Power Apps canvas comes in. But it's definitely it's not something that you can do it in JSON, of course, as you know, and it's tedious. But that whole, if I understand the question correctly, if you've got is this an external item? Yes. Then the 4 other fields appear beneath it where you have to fill out. If that tick box is no, hide those 4 fields. Yeah, absolutely understand that requirement, and I think that's the Power Apps function that goes on top of it. So a Canvas app is effectively created to overlay that form, and you have that functionality available in the Canvas app. Don't take anything on the screen because it's a demo environment. So for now, there's only 5 or 20 people in this environment, if you can imagine. But permissions is a whole art, in itself, in terms of what's best practice, and it tends to be on a case-by-case basis. I would suggest that rule of doing it by job roles is pragmatic, is sensible, but likewise, we have customers with 300 users on SharePoint that doing it by job role, when maybe not everybody's got the same job role, even though they're probably doing the same job. You get into those kind of questions then, in terms of those challenges. But I think it's absolutely the right thing to aim for, is by having permissions at a job role level. It is absolutely the right thing to aim for. If you could do it, brilliant. But we do find a lot of organizations don't necessarily record the role of an individual as accurately as one would hope, and therefore you get into a bit of a challenge there. Depending on size and scale, in terms of sites, numbers of sites, but no, there's tools that we've got that you can migrate content across from on-prem to online, and depends on what version you're on-prem. You might just want to double check.
2016.
Great, cool. So I was going to say 2013 went out of support, didn't it, a couple of months ago. So 2016 is fine for now, and that is an easier migration. If you're on an older version, the migration is harder, but because you're on 2016, the migration path is relatively smooth. But if you said to me, I've got 1,000 sites, of course, there's that more training and 10,000 users. It's a lot harder than if you've got 100 users and 15 sites. So thanks everybody for the questions. It sounds like it was useful, which is really pleasing. hope we've just shown you some little bits of how this can be used. I think just my my final thoughts are, if you cannot create a new list or cannot create a new document library, you're not using SharePoint to its full potential. So if you're in an organization that's really locked that down and prevented you from doing that, then you just need to try and kind of access or promote that change, really, because SharePoint is meant to be a collaboration tool that you can use across your organizations, and you can get rid of your Excel spreadsheets, get rid of your lists, and put them into all that information into this one place where you can communicate and collaborate effectively. But yeah, so thank you very much for joining. If you want to follow us on any of the social platforms, we're on LinkedIn, on YouTube. My name's Joel Markham. I've really enjoyed today. Thank you for all those questions that have come through, much appreciated. If you want to email me, I'll put my email in the chat box, so afterwards you can drop me an email, and we'll send out the slides plus the video recording later on as well. So thank you very much for your time. Please do stay safe, stay healthy, and yeah, we'll catch up on the next one. Thank you so much for your time.